So here are my initial thoughts regarding the latest Harry Potter movie, seeing as it's still fresh in my mind. And let me tell you, it certainly leaves a lasting impression, if that tells you anything. Keep in mind that while I am a fan of the series, I'm not what you'd call an enthusiast. I grew up reading the books, and with all the recent book-to-movie adaptations that have come from Hollywood, these films really stand out for some reason. It might be because of the exceptional casting, the increasingly dark tone of the story, or just the fact that someone actually tried with this series. Not to mention, I found out last night during the end credits that J.K. Rowling herself actually co-produced this one, if not some of the other entries. So without further ado, I'll just jump right in. It goes without saying that even after seeing it, I'm still a little skeptical about the last book being split into two separate films. I believe firmly that if a series has X number of books, that the film should have the exact same number. This is becoming commonplace in movies today, and it perturbs me. Don't get me wrong, I know how Hollywood works, and if they can make money at something, they will. But come on, does something as simple as The Hobbit really need to be turned into two feature-length films? I think if a filmmaker is really talented, they could do the whole story in one film, especially when you consider that the longest book in the series, The Order of the Phoenix, was actually the shortest film. The other thing that bugs me about it is that essentially we're paying twice for one movie, and this goes for both the theatrical release as well as the DVD. Remember Kill Bill? Yeah, it's the same concept. To my knowledge, Kill Bill was never released as one DVD set. You had to buy both films separately, even though it was basically one movie. And you could make the argument that this isn't a new concept, as movie trilogies are released all the time. But come on, it's called Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2. It's one movie that I'll be paying for twice. Now, aside from some redundant scenes where the characters apparate from point A to B, I'm a little more accepting of this two-movie format after seeing how in-depth they were. It runs about 2.5 hours, which is typical for a Harry Potter movie. I'm okay with this. Initially I thought they were just going to make two short movies, but they at least took advantage of the longer running time. I wasn't really happy with how they chose to end the first part because it doesn't really segue or even give you much of a cliffhanger, it just ends and goes to the credits. And don't bother staying after the credits because I did and there was no preview for the second part. Rotten bastards. Now that I got that out of the way, I think I'll start talking about the actual movie. While some of the other Harry Potter movies have been rated PG-13, this is the first one I felt that actually earns it. It's pretty bloody, scary, and deals with some pretty intense material. Yeah, I've read the book and knew what to expect, but some scenes still took me by surprise. There's one scene where Ron Weasley actually has a vision of Harry and Hermione naked and kissing. I don't remember that from the book. Don't think this is a complaint. It was scenes like this that had me really enjoying the film because it takes no prisoners. The kids who grew up with these books are now mostly adults, so I appreciate that they took it to a new level. My least favorite film in the series is Order of the Phoenix, pretty much for the same reason. It's exceptionally dark. However, in that one, I didn't really feel that it was warranted. I felt coming off of Goblet of Fire that they could have lightened up a little. This one is the darkest yet, but it calls for it. Within the first 10 minutes, one of the essential characters dies, off-screen of course, and one of the Weasley twins gets pretty bloody. It's also a very different film because it's the only one that doesn't take place at Hogwarts. This isn't news for those who have read the book, but I took my wife to see it and she was really thrown for a loop. This is an adventure movie where Harry, Ron, and Hermione take it upon themselves to go on a quest searching the countryside for the last of the Horcruxes, the magical artifacts that Voldemort used to hide the fragments of his soul in. On the same token, they also find that they have to find 3 valuable weapons, known as the Deathly Hallows. I don't want to give away too much more, as this movie really only introduces the Hallows toward the tail end of the movie. But one of my favorite scenes is when Hermione reads the tale of the 3 brothers, who were the original recipients of the Deathly Hallows. As opposed to simply reading the story, there's a little animated piece that looks like Tim Burton could have directed it. Everything is done with silhouettes that look like they could have been extras from Nightmare Before Christmas. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about, and again, it makes this film stand out more so than the rest. The cast is at the top of their game, and we get to see pretty much everyone ever from a Harry Potter film make a small appearance, although I didn't see Maggie Smith as Professor McGonagall. However, this one focuses more on Ron, Harry, and Hermione, so everyone else just stands in the background. And we only see them near the beginning because Harry ventures off on his own and loses track of everyone else. This, more than the other films, took a lot of its cues from the Lord of the Rings series. The other small complaint I had was, you would think by doing the book as 2 movies that it wouldn't seem as condensed as they usually are. They could have spent a little more time developing the characters and explaining things. Again, I've read the book, so I know where the gaps are, but my wife hasn't, so she was a little confused. Near the beginning, we find that there's going to be a wedding. They talk about the wedding, and they show the wedding for a brief few minutes before everything goes to hell in a handbasket. But if you haven't read the book, you'd probably have no idea who it was getting married. If you've seen the film and are still confused, it's Bill Weasley and Fleur Delacour, the one Weasley brother we've never met until now, and one of the champions from Goblet of Fire, which was 3 movies ago. They couldn't take 5 minutes to explain that? I guess they were too busy dodging Death Eaters to worry about it. The other thing I really liked about it was the action, of which there's plenty. Yes, I know, the action in Harry Potter isn't the same as the action in a Die Hard movie, but if you're a fan, that's saying something. There are a lot of fights, some of which are pretty suspenseful, and it also strikes a few emotional chords. The movie is just dark, 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 so when the characters finally do something whimsical, like Harry and Hermione's dancing a little duet right after Ron splits from the team, it's all the more appreciated. Like I said, this one's still fresh in my mind, and as you can see, I had a lot to say about it. I thought it was well worth a $10 price of admission, and I can tell that the next one's going to be just as good. I'd place it in the top 5, making it better than Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince, but if you're a parent taking your kid to this one, I have to warn you, this one's a little more intense, and like I said from the beginning, it actually earns the PG-13.